Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Steve Ramona. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast. Steve Ramona. We're all about to talk on life. Our guest will share his life story. We want you to success in life. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk on life. We're gonna talk on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are gonna witness. Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I almost forgot the name of the podcast. I'm so excited about this show. I'm your host, Steve Ramona, and you know me, I don't follow a general rule here, but we're going to talk about something that affects you every day. We just talked about, you walk into Walmart and you buy something, you go to CVS, you buy something, Amazon, one of the biggest trillion dollar companies. What do? I just bought something this morning on Amazon. I didn't realize, but this is going to affect all of you. And to know it is probably the education is going to help you a lot. So let's bring our guest on today. Kerim, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
I'm going to jump right in. What is Atlas Network?
The Atlas Network is a global supply chain solutions company, and we have a lot of problems in global supply chain. So you can imagine that we're pretty busy.
Yeah.
In short, we look to make ideas into reality. We look to help businesses of all sizes, small, medium, entrepreneurs, large-scale businesses, take advantage of the global economy safely, and doing that through a very formulaic process and best practices that we've been working on for more than 20 years. We have a network of about 2,000 suppliers globally, offices in New York as well as overseas in China. And we really look to also connect the dots that a lot of people don't really see or understand, therefore taking advantage again of the opportunities globally that exist.
Tariffs didn't help, obviously. It's a big impact into what you do. How do you navigate the government and decisions, and not just the government, but the world, because you're worldwide? How do you, they come in, tariffs come in, and your supply chain guy goes, Kerim, what am I going to do? It went up 30% or whatever it may be.
Well, I wrote a whole book about this, which is basically called Supply Chain Ups and Downs, because that's literally every day in supply chain. And it's just a matter of what's that up or that down today, this week, that month, or otherwise, whether it's a pandemic, a tariff, a hurricane, a strike at a port, so many things that are uncontrollable, right? And there's the controllable and the uncontrollable. So how do you manage the uncontrollable when you just don't really know how and when it's going to come? You have to have a diversity of your supply chain. You have to have alternatives within your supply chain, and you have to play through these almost doomsday scenarios, which is being negative with a positive intention. Can our business survive not having product for 6 months? What are we going to do if a major disruption occurs? How are we still going to get products to customers? And industry to industry, product to product, it's going to be very different on how that's looked at or managed to avoid disruptions, because the reality of it is the only way to truly be disruption proof is to be nimble and agile and adept and be able to shift as the sands shift underneath of your feet. So this is a key part of our business as well, providing that almost insurance policy / strategic consulting role to our customers to not just say, we're okay today, but how are we going to be when those dark clouds roll in? Are we still going to also be okay in that situation? And that's really something that I think is quite critical for us to, discuss.
So COVID, because I talk about with entrepreneurs all the time, you can only control what you can control. Your calendar, this, that, the uncontrollable, as you say, happens for everybody. And COVID was a perfect example. How do you handle that? Because if it's uncontrollable, there's not a lot you can do about it. Do you help them pivot, divert, change their path? Okay, talk about that. That's important for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, during COVID, people needed things, especially hospitals and organizations, PPE, and so on and so forth. And a lot of the major trade routes were not available, and some of the manufacturing even got stopped up because of the fact that we had, shipping issues and trucking issues, and going all the way back to the ports overseas in many ways. Well, you still had to figure out how to get things here, and where there's a will, there's always a way. So we had to use, non-frequented ports. We had to airship some products in. Some groups had to do manufacturing locally. The truth be told is that the consumer is the reason why the supply chain exists. And you have to have that consumer's ideas in mind, which is their pricing and their frequency and how they're going to basically get access to their goods. Because if they can't, then the entire supply chain breaks down all the way back. So whether it's a manufacturing alternative, whether it's nearshoring or domestic or a different place overseas, or it's a shipping and logistics challenge, or it's a quality control issue, each one of these things has to be pinpointed as a variable and then look to have alternatives within those variables or ways to essentially be able to take advantage of or possibly even have opportunities in the face of chaos, cost engineering, and so on and so forth. So again, it comes back to this concept that at all costs, you need to make sure that the consumer experience is not disrupted. And that's something that suppliers and logistics providers and brands all need to keep in mind, because once that stops, then everything else breaks.
Where were you in the early 2000s? I ran a restaurant, and you're nailing it across the board. We were successful. That was one of our biggest challenges, was that, people come in and expect it. Hey, where's your specialty? We ran out. And that's okay in a restaurant because, people know they need to get there earlier. It's not a bad thing. But the other thing we dealt with, you mentioned earlier, is quality control.
Oh, yeah.
Because this affects a lot of industries. How do you guys help handle that?
Well, I think the key is, and in business, we think that growth is good, developing and growing at the speed of light. But something falls off if you're not planning for that growth. And we talk about that in the manufacturing and global supply chain standpoint, especially with the supplier selection process, where we say your supplier may be good for today, but are they good for when you're doing 1 million units or 10 million units and so on and so forth? And if they're not, you need to have those alternatives or possibly even multiple suppliers that are going to be able to manage the fact that each one of them has only a certain amount of output that they can do at a good level of quality before it starts to break down. So do you end up having 3 different suppliers, and what's the differences between those suppliers? If I get a product on a Tuesday, does it look different than the product that I get on a Wednesday because supplier A made it instead of supplier B? So it's not even just quality control. Sometimes it's cross manufacturing quality control across different entities too. So it's really a matter of gauging the variabilities and determining what really are detrimental or major quality defects, what are aesthetic, what are technical, what are formulaic. It just really depends upon the product we're talking about, and working towards having resolutions where they're most important. And sometimes that's redundancy plans and contingency plans and alternative suppliers. And sometimes it's a matter of just making sure your current supplier has the right processes in place to make sure that you get a great output.
Yeah. You're a smart guy, Kareem. Very smart guy. I love this.
Thank you.
Because as you're talking, it's so powerful because, we get broccoli from one company, they're out, we go to another company. It's not the same green. And some people, not everybody, but somebody goes, it tastes different because it looked different. And that's just restaurant, multiple industries you deal with a lot. Super smart. And you being outside in looking in helps a lot. That's why I wish you were around, because you go, Steve, hey, you guys, did you think about, because we're trying to solve the problem.
Yeah, you're in the weeds. You're in the weeds. And I think the other thing that's nice about our work is that we've always been product agnostic. So that has allowed us to see a wide array of different kinds of industries and products, but the process is the same. You pick the right supplier, it gets you 70, 80% of the way there. You have eyes and ears on the ground that gets you another maybe 5 or 10% there. And then you got third-party attestation that comes in and gets you that remaining, let's say, 5 to 7%. I didn't say it adds up to be 100%, because the reality of it is that it's never defect free. And anybody who positions it as such, you run away from as fast as possible. There's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be defects. It's just a matter of understanding which are the ones that really upset the apple cart and which of the ones are, 2% different or otherwise, and really don't make much of a difference for the consumer experience who sees things in a vacuum rather than holistically. So, I think that's also a really important part of the process, to have a good process, and that alleviates you having to look at it kind of product to product.
Well, let's go back to because I know the restaurant industry. Spoilage is in a line item of our P&L. It had to be, because fish didn't last as long or wasn't as good or as fat. We will go on and on about that. Now, audience, you're probably thinking, why is Kareem on here? It's doing business with a servant's heart. Here's where I think, and here you're going to tell us, relationships. The restaurant to the vendor, the pipe company to the vendor, the pipe company it's a vendor to the plumbing company, down across the board. How important are those relationships?
They're everything. They're absolutely everything. And in China, there's this concept of guanxi, which literally means the relationship, because it all starts and stops with that. In Asia, for example, they believe that, without the relationship and the good kind of feelings between people and businesses, that nothing really great can come about from that. And that's the way it is really in most business. I mean, how many of the best deals in your life were done without a contract, done on a handshake or over a drink, or because you knew somebody or there was somebody who vouched for you or whatever it may be? We're transactional in the realm of business, but at the same time, we're just as much relational. The relational side has to be almost equivalent or even surpass the transactional side. Matter of fact, in many ways, if you think about it, the transactional side is only a result of the relational side. You need the first to then lend to the next. So I think it's absolutely essential and key, and it's what makes the numbers work. It's what makes the opportunities fly, and it's what really generates the most benefit for all sides.
Yeah, it's in relationships. Building them are the easy part to me. Not everybody's doing it, but here's the hard part. When you've got that vendor that's late and on, negative things are happening. What do you tell your clients when that starts happening?
Well, you have to be transparent first and foremost. I think that the issues come about when people try to skirt it or try to make something that is a big deal not a big deal. It's starting by saying, we're going to be late this month, and here is the reason that's been given to us as of why. And we're trying to work on a way to figure out that this doesn't happen again, or if it does, that we know more in advance so that there is fail safes and so on. What we really do is we try to build in as much dummy time as we can, realizing that everything can and does happen, especially in supply chain. I mean, you could do the most perfect job with manufacturing, bringing goods over, bringing it to the port, so on. And then they say, you know what? We don't have enough space on the vessel. You're going to be delayed 2 weeks, even though everything else was on time. So what is the downstream impact? The consumer doesn't get what they need when they need it. So regardless of what happened upstream, it was bad. So what do? You get everything to the port a month in advance. So you know that if you have something that's going to happen, a 2-week delay or anything, or a pandemic or a tariff or whatever may come about that may give disruptions, that you're still going to be on time or early. Like if you're early, you're not early enough in supply chain. That's the key. You got to be, there's early, and then there's supply chain early.
And that's not a problem. I don't think anybody's there yelling at a company saying, "Oh my God, you're way too early on my supplies."
Well, you never know. Sometimes, believe it or not, sometimes you get that with cash flow. Sometimes people be like, "Oh, we weren't expecting to pay that bill yet," and you're just like, "Listen, we don't know. Would you rather have it be late?" And they're like, "No, because we would lose our sales cycle, we'd lose our customer, we'd miss Christmas, whatever." So it's early, and you guys are gonna have to, deal with it.
Sounds like they need financial coaching. I'll just put that out there.
That happens too, for sure.
Well, Kareem, here's the elephant in the room. Everybody's talking about it, AI. Is it a benefit to supply chain, or is it a detriment?
the reality with AI, whether we're talking supply chain or not, is it's all about adoption. We can have as much technology as we want here, but if there's not a tone at the top that really educates people within an organization as to why it's being put into place, how to use it, not be fearful of it, and really take advantage of the benefits that are there, then it's just another buzzword term that's floating around. And so I do believe it can be extremely beneficial. I think that we can run algorithms and permutations and things that would take human beings 5 or 10 years to do. And that's where it should be used as a tool, but not as a crutch. I think that AI should never, or technology should never really be used as a crutch. It should always be used as a tool. My fears come about from us being lazy and over reliant on AI and different technological solutions, to the point that we lose our strategic thinking, to the point that we lose our ability to make the mistakes that end up being the breakthroughs that we are looking for. So this is where I think that there's a misuse potentially of the intent of how AI can be used for the benefit of everybody. So I do think it's beneficial. And I think there's a lot of opportunities in logistics, in carbon emissions, in the manufacturing process, in the ideation process, even in the RFQ type of process. I'm an ambassador of Alibaba, and we're the first US-based verified supplier of Alibaba.com.
Wow.
And I was there in Hangzhou last year when they actually unveiled Axio, which is the world's first AI-powered sourcing tool, where you go in there, you say, I want to build something, blah, 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 and it gives you the connective tissue to find all the suppliers that can make it for you and how to make it. And it even writes a business plan for you in a matter of like 5 seconds. So we're there, but what do you do with all that stuff? How do you take all that information and then actually make it useful? Who's going to still babysit that factory? Who's going to then take that business plan and make it into or execute it? You have a great idea. It's only as good as the execution of that idea. So in all of those ways, I don't really think that AI stands up alone. It stands up in collaboration with humans and working hand in hand. And I got a degree in AI and strategy from MIT, actually,
I saw that.
just to learn as much as I could about this. So we know how to take advantage of it and how to not have it take advantage of us.
Yeah. Well, audience, I'm going to tell you, he just said that humbly, but MIT, he went and got a degree in AI. Just want you to think about that. This dude is a smart dude. I'm appreciative of that. Here's the other thing with AI. You said technology. So thank you for saying that, because they've got AI, but you also have all the other technology. It's doing the same thing. It's just AI's risen above everybody else.
Sure.
So be careful. I love that. What's the future of Atlas Network?
Well, the future of Atlas Network, I believe, is to continue to have a stronger and stronger global presence. We've really focused early on in servicing a lot of North America and things of that nature, and being kind of a connective platform between Asia and North America. However, the machine that we've built and the process we've built is really geographically, again, agnostic. And we've done, work that we deliver to the Caribbean and to Latin America. We're trying to focus more in on the Middle East and Africa and different places in Europe, because we do believe that the services we offer and the approach that we have is very, very valuable for companies who don't have the infrastructure, who don't have the visibility, who don't have the capabilities to build an entire supply chain management process. And that's where we really are valuable and can plug in. So that's my hope, that we continue to grow our global footprint. And we've been doing a good job of that here with the team, and really looking to grow and build here in New York, and attacking more international markets.
Yeah. Agnostic, you said earlier, is powerful, because that means you can help everyone. What you can. If you got a supply, here's your man, Kerim.
Right.
We're coming to the end here. Tell us a story of a client you work with. You've proved to us you're an expert in all this. You got a great story of where supply chain really was the great benefit to that company?
Sure. So there's a company, a spirits company located in Puerto Rico, that was taken over by a new management. And when they were taken over, they had sort of tried to bring it back from the ashes. It was one of the oldest spirits companies on the island. And the biggest challenge that they had early on was the supply chain because they were trying to get their dry goods and so forth. And it would take them 6 months at a time to get it. They would get it, it would not be consistent. They were having all kinds of issues and challenges that were disrupting this beautiful idea of bringing back a heritage spirit to the island. We were able to plug in with those folks and not only help them with their dry goods, cutting down their time frames by a third, reducing their cost by 20 to 40%, and then also building fully automated production lines. They were doing a lot of things by hand still that allowed them to keep up with the output and demand that was needed. And in a very short time, they were back on the map again and were heralded as one of the top producing products in the entire region. And that was because we were able to plug in and be transformative for that company. It wasn't just a matter of saying, let's come in here and make something for you for less and faster. It was more than that. There was strategy, there was ideas around how to take it this way and how we could service these markets if we grew this part or automated these things and things. And that's again some of the beauty of what we do here, which gets to that kind of more consulting based work where we can be strategic, we can connect dots, and we can, in doing so, really help companies to thrive and be transformative. And we've done that for other companies too, that then successfully get bought out by multinationals or conglomerates because we stepped in and got them from here to there. Then they were on a radar screen to then get picked up because of what we had done for them. So, I love those kinds of stories where we can see a business grow and thrive because we plug them in specific ways.
You said it earlier, I'll say it again, growth and scale. If that's what you want to do, audience, you have a business or a friend that has that, this is where you want to go because supply chain is so complex to do that growth. A lot of people jump into this stuff, say, hey, I'm going to build this widget. And next thing you know, widget's taking off. They're like, what the heck do I do now? Call
Right.
Kerim. I just made a commercial. Call Kerim. Well, let's end with a very fun question. I like to improv a little bit. So I've got a table at a restaurant, me and you are going to sit to have dinner. Who would you invite, whether their life, people have influenced your life over the years? And more importantly, what food is Kerim going to order for the table?
Oh, great. Anybody in history?
Anybody at all?
Anybody at all? I would have Alexander the Great at that table with me for sure. And what would I order? Probably some kind of, leg of lamb. I think he'd like it. He was Greek or Macedonian.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is that I would have a person like that at the table because, I believe in this idea of a limitless mindset. We essentially are on this planet for as long as we are. We have to really push ahead, thrive, grow, scale. And we only do that when we start with ourselves, when we don't see the boundaries or limitations that we have around us. And a person like that didn't see those things, literally crossed oceans, built empires, looked to educate, not enslave people and things of that nature. And so, he would be a guy that I would want to have at the table to just kind of say, listen, tell me how, you move these mountains to essentially be able to achieve, what you had in your heart and in your mind.
I tell you what, I'm excited to be at that table because anybody's last name is great and lived it, I want to learn from. So I'm right next to you with that. It's great. Thank you for taking the time. You've really educated the audience. I know a lot more about supply chain than I did 2003 when I had the restaurant. Again, I wish you were there, but we can't go back. Let's just move forward. I know people listening want to learn how to get the book. And do you have a podcast? Do you have a
Yes.
show?
We
And
have
talk
a
about your
podcast. It's on YouTube. It's called The Supply and Demand Show. I do it with a co-host named Ricky Crawford, who's a really interesting guy. He's got a show called Leave No Trace on Amazon Prime, where he travels all over the world, the far corners, and looks at like ecotourism and things like that. So we're good friends a long time. So we have a nice tongue-in-cheek sort of two-man show called The Supply and Demand Show. The book, as you said, which is Supply Chain Ups and Downs, is available on Amazon or at supplychainupsanddowns.com. And then, for my stuff, my personal philosophy, leadership, thought leadership side of things, that's all at KareemKfuri.com, or anything for Atlas Network is theatlasnetwork.com. Those are a lot of the links.
Yeah, and we'll have them in the show notes if you didn't have a chance to write them down. And check out and by the way, if you have a supply, just reach out, ask them questions. Because, or buy the book, $20, $30, you could probably save 10% if you're a multi-million-dollar company. talking hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're saving. Not saying that just the book will do that, but if it answers some questions, that's why I love books. They're really inexpensive way to be educated and be better. Thanks again, Kareem. Appreciate that. And audience, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Super simple. These are gifts. Kareem just gave us a gift for 20 minutes. So if you know somebody's got a supply chain, have them listen to this podcast. And if they want to take the next step to reach out, get his book, whatever it may be, you can suggest that too. This is a gift because you're impacting people. And that's what a servant heart does. And that's what Kareem did for us in the show today. So with that being said, me and Kareem want to thank all of you for watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.